BIA Subcommittee meeting, May 30th, sound check 2, sound check 2.
Welcome to the May 30th BIA subcommittee meeting. We are just waiting for quorum, so we will put this meeting on hold until we achieve that.
Go ahead.
Okay, as we now have quorum present, I'd like to call this meeting of the BIA area subcommittee meeting to order as of 1 p.m. Please be reminded that all electronic devices to be switched to non-audible function during committee meetings. I will now commence a roll call. Councillor Esther Pauls, Tracy McKinnon. I see Tracy on the call. Susan Penny. Heather Peter.
Here.
Doris Sanchez. Bettina Shorman. David Taylor.
Here.
Emily Walsh.
Here.
Stephanie Wheeler.
Here.
Okay, I will move on to approval of the agenda. May I have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as presented? Moved by Susan, seconded by Heather. Please indicate your vote. Carried. Motion is carried. Are there any declarations of interest? Being none, let's move on. Of the May 13th, 2025 meeting, moved by Emily, seconded by Heather. Are there any discussions on the minutes? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're on to 7.1, Blue Box Transition Program. Ryan Kent, the Manager of Waste Policy and Programs, is here to continue consultation on the Blue Box Transition Program. Go ahead, Ryan.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here as well. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Yeah, so I am here again to, based on my presentation from the last meeting on the May 13th, when I presented all the impacts or potential impacts of the Blue Box program, most notably the fact that as of January 1st, 2026, the city has to determine whether or not we will be continuing to provide for the waste collection or the recycling service for all businesses, non-eligible properties within the city of Hamilton. And I'm here today based on the motions that were put forward on that day. So that we have that there be a special meeting of the Business Improvements Area Subcommittee for further consultation respecting it. So I'm here today to get feedback from this group on the impacts, so potentially operational, financially, impact on businesses to this this change in operations here in the city of Hamilton. We do have a report that's scheduled to be going to the Public Works Committee on July 7th. So this is an opportunity for us to include comments from this group into that report. So I'm here today to receive all of the concerns and the comments now that hopefully this group has had a couple of weeks to digest what was presented on that meeting or at that meeting. And I'm happy to be here and happy to take all that input. So I would consider this to be somewhat of an open conversation, and happy to take. I'm assuming that the clerks would have a speakers list going, and then we can speak to the concerns of the individuals here.
Okay, is there any comments? Susan?
So unfortunately, I missed the last meeting, and so I did miss the presentation, but I think I understand the gist of what impact this will have on our business community, and I've had a chance to talk to a few of our businesses. So, one of the feedback, and this might have already been discussed at the meeting, so I apologize, was that if our businesses are looking at bearing an extra cost to have a third-party recycling company or to try and figure out how to manage their recyclables themselves, the overriding feeling that I'm getting from our business is that those recyclables will go into the garbage. For a multiple number of reasons. There's a number of our businesses that are on this program that do not have the space around their building to even if they had the money and the resources to get a third-party collector, they don't have the space for a bin. They're too close to the street, or they have very limited parking and aren't able to give up the parking spaces. And I've also spoken to some of our people that are in heritage buildings, and the heritage buildings have very, very strict protocols on what they are allowed to do to the exterior of their building. And so, they're saying, even if we had a space to put a bin, it probably wouldn't meet the criteria that we have to maintain to make sure that we're meeting all of the rules for heritage buildings. So, there's the downloading of costs to businesses, which will be huge. These are businesses that are already reeling with a very difficult economic time. So there's the concern about the costs if they have to arrange for a third-party collector, the space to even do that. And the other thing that is, we already have here in Waterdown garbage collection on 2 days of the week. So that means anytime you're walking on our streets, there a couple of times a week, there's already piles of garbage on our streets, particularly when you have windy days and messy days, and raccoons that live in our community. We end up with the trash not just being where it is and collected, but it's getting dragged and broken open onto our sidewalks. So now, it's also a huge concern to us if we are looking at different and alternate days for recycling collectibles. And if that is mirrored by our 2 days a week, we could have trash and or recyclables on our streetscape, which we spend a ton of money trying to bring flowers and vibrancy and part-time crew in to clean up the streets and make it someplace that we want to be walkable, that we would now have trash and or recyclables on our streets for multiple days of the week. So those are some of the top concerns that, in speaking with our businesses and understanding that there are going to be changes to the program, that we are very concerned about.
Yeah, thank you for that. Through the chair, thank you for that input. If I may, I'd like to follow up a little bit on the waste being collected on separate days of the week, if I may. So all of the residential properties that are in BIAs, even if they are above businesses, will continue to get collection through the producers. That will continue to happen. The residential properties are eligible no matter what. And we do know that there is some shared collection set out areas between the residential, the apartments that may be above, and obviously the businesses that are on the ground floor. So because these two properties will no longer be collected by one entity, say the city, there may have to be a way that we have to separate the recycling that goes out on the curb so it isn't confused with the residential recycling. So that might be an issue. So one of the things that we need to do is kind of keep it separate, because there's going to be additional costs. We don't want to pay for the recycling of residential properties, we being the city, if it's the obligation and the responsibility of producers. So there is some, there is some operational challenges with having all that material collected on the same day, as I hope the subcommittee can appreciate. So it might be advantageous for us to have it on a separate day or collect it in a different manner so that it is at least identifiable in one way or another, different than the residential. But the point is well made of, the material having to be on different days might be an impact. However, I would also say that because the residential portion is part of the producers organization, or their producer responsibility, they have the ability as of January 1st to change that collection day to whatever they want to meet efficiencies. So the city would have no control over that. So there might be residential recycling being collected on a different day than it is now, because the city will have no say in when that's collected. And I can appreciate that that might be a problem as well, but it is also something for this group to be cognizant of. I would say that the city is trying to work as best we can with the service provider of producers so that we keep everything aligned so that we don't have too much of an issue, because we have that similar concern. In our residential neighborhoods, we don't want producers picking up recycling on a Tuesday and we're picking up garbage on a Wednesday. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We're trying to work with them and make sure that we have something that makes sense logistically. So.
Okay. Are you good, Susan? Okay, Nadine?
Yeah, I want to echo a lot of what Susan just said. That's certainly been the same feedback that I've been getting, is concerns around the cost. Just doing quick math on a bin at $300, even if it's only picked up once a month, because you're not filling it to that extent, that's $3,600 a year that a business is potentially out to have that stuff picked up. And I can appreciate that, there's some amount of coordination that needs to happen between the two organizations to get everybody addressed. I think part of the issue is that there's a mix of uses. We already have issues between business pickup and residential pickup within the stretch of the BIA. There is confusion. I have businesses in storefronts, residential tenants in storefronts who can't get their garbage picked up. They're being told they only get one bag because they're residential. I'm really, really concerned, and I'm curious as to at what point the city starts to own the responsibility of the BIAs. Like, we exist because there is intention to provide supports for our areas. We already struggle with issues concerning us and them. This just creates one more layer of that. So I would like to see not just coordination, but that this process be streamlined, and perhaps the city needs to step in and say, you know what? Rather than create this divide and make it more complicated, the city will continue to provide or will compensate the third party for providing the service within the BIA stretches. But just having the financial burden and the responsibility to fall on these already struggling businesses, it's just not acceptable.
So, sorry, through the chair, I just want to make sure I understand. You said that like the two groups kind of in conflict. Are you speaking of the city and producers?
In terms of an us and
Yeah.
them sort of situation, no, this is, you know, this crosses multiple things. This crosses the responsibility of things like horticulture and green spaces within the BIAs, waste, you know, the difference between public assets and private assets, and who's responsible for the sidewalk. And, you know, this is just one more battle for us to fight that seems completely unnecessary. Like there must be a point at which the city says, we care, we want to take responsibility, we know that there's a cost associated with it. Like a property owner that has been paying a BIA levy that to them means that there's money being put into the city so that things get looked after for them, to now turn around and say, oh, my residential tenants, well, you guys can put garbage out because it's going to get collected, but my commercial tenants, you know, it's not going to be. And sorry, I actually don't have the resources to be able to provide an alternative solution for you. And I would tell you to just take it to the dump, but you can't even take it there because they won't accept it. So it's super frustrating. And yeah, I would like to see the city step up and take responsibility.
Yeah, so through the chair, obviously I'm not prepared to speak on other items other than waste. However, with the waste, as I did mention about the report going on July 7th and is in one of the motions, obviously I can't speak to what the actual recommendations are. However, I can speak to the fact that there will be one recommendation and several alternatives provided to the Public Works Committee on that day. And at least one of them will be to provide service to the business improvement areas. So I can't go into obviously what's going to be a recommendation, what's going to be the alternative. Obviously, I can't do that before it's public information. However, staff is, you know, understands that this is a concern and this is the feedback that we want to get so that we can provide it to the Public Works Committee on that particular day. You know, that the business improvement areas, they want this service, they need this service, they provide, you know, contribute to a levy as being a member of the business improvement area, and that will be provided in the rationale as to alternatives or recommendations that are provided in that report. So, I mean, this is what we want to hear, and obviously, staff will have to adhere to whatever council decides on that particular day. But whatever, we will support the BIAs for the Blue Box program if that is the direction that we're given by council on that particular day. I don't think I have anything more to say to that, but I definitely understand, and we will include these comments in the report so that it's understood that the concern from this group.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. Through the chair, I'm not directing this excitement or passion at you. I understand that you know, you're here to communicate and try and provide this feedback. It's a very frustrating point. And at the end of the day, the result will be, if it becomes too complicated, to Susan's point, none of my businesses are going to recycle. They just won't. They're already frustrated at the recycling program that's offered by the city. This is just going to make it worse.
Yeah, so through the chair, just very quickly, I'm hoping that if the service does continue, that staff can work with the business improvement areas to perhaps simplify and deal with some of the issues that you are having currently. So
Okay, I'm going to pass the chair to Susan so I can speak on this. Nadine basically and Susan both covered exactly what I was going to say. I think in this specific situation, a lot of times our businesses don't know the line between what the city does and what the BIAs do. And I'm very concerned that if more services are being taken away from our businesses, they're going to look to the BIAs to supplement those services, which we just don't have the resources to do. That's my main concern. I'm also concerned about dumped garbage, especially in the downtown core. It's already a bad enough issue as it is that we're dealing with daily, our staff having to manage daily. It's a time-consuming issue. And our businesses are overwhelmed right now with, especially downtown in the lower city, with some of the things that we're struggling with. And if anything, we should be getting more supports and not supports taken away. So I think there is a great opportunity here for the city to work with the specific businesses. If we're able to work with a contractor that can sit down with the BIAs and talk about like what works for us. Like, so for instance, right now we have recycling and garbage picked up on Tuesdays, but their businesses are requested to put that out after 7 o'clock on Mondays or before 7 a.m. on Tuesdays, which we have for years said doesn't work for us because the large majority of our businesses are closed on Mondays. So I think there's an opportunity here. I'd like to see a silver lining in this, that perhaps this is a better way to streamline the BIs as a priority in this project and look at ways that each area can sort of be dealt with differently as opposed to lumping us all together. But I really want to caution that taking away any more services than the BIAs have already lost over the last few years would probably cause a bit of an uprise from this group, because we're just kind of at the end of our ropes with a lot of things. So just to speak to Nadine's passion, I feel the exact same way about it. And I'm trying to stay positive, but very scared that if we're not brought into the mix of these discussions, we'll just be given situations that we can't work with. So I would say collaboration and communication is extremely important for us and also to our members. So it's not just well, here's what your new schedule is. We want to make sure that we're working with what works for all of them as well. So I guess Brian has nothing to say to that. I will just take the chair back. Oh, we can't hear you. I think your headphone is.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
Yeah, I was busy taking notes, so I apologize for that. So yeah, I understand that, and we can certainly work with whatever contractor we have for that service, you know, and maybe we can, you know, if there's an opportunity to improve things, you know, we should certainly look at that. So I do appreciate that comment as well.
Yeah, I think there's a big risk of it being an environmental impact if it's not done right. I mean, recycling is meant to be something that helps the environment. Dumping garbage that's just going to sit in places it shouldn't be is not a good look. So I'd really like to see this taken very seriously before we get to that point. So, okay, I'll take the chair back officially now from Susan, and I believe Susan is up as, oh no, Emily is up as a first-time speaker.
Yes, that's correct. And Madam Chair, just so you know, Councillor Pauls has joined us in the room, and I believe she's indicating to speak.
Okay.
Thank you. I came late because I had 2 other meetings, so sorry. Can Brian, can you?
Councillor Pauls, it's not your turn yet.
Oh,
Emily has the floor.
I thought,
you'll be after Emily.
Yeah, no problem.
Go ahead, Emily.
Thank you so much. Definitely echoing everyone else's comments, especially Susie's about the illegally dumped garbage. I think that could be especially difficult down here, given that enforcing dumped garbage can be incredibly difficult. So I do think that is one point that you really have to keep in mind. Another, always in the back of my mind, I have LRT construction looming, and I just think that when either it's Main Street being torn up or King Street being torn up, having one organization doing the collecting rather than 150 or so for the different private businesses down here would be exponentially easier on getting access in a difficult time for all of these businesses. And just kind of to Susie's comments as well on building a program that works, while we definitely do want to see the city maintain control of this, I do think it should also be kept in mind to make sure that barriers are eliminated so that businesses don't feel that they have to go the private route if the public one isn't working for them anymore. I think we see that a lot already down here, and so I just want to keep that in mind, that we build a program that functions well for the people that need it.
Yeah, through the chair, thank you for that. I would like to further before, if the decision is to continue the service starting on January 1st, to have more in-depth conversation on what in more detail what these barriers are, so that we can actually have a good idea and figure out how we can best address them when we revise this program. So thank you for that.
Okay, and now Councillor Pauls.
Sorry, thank you. Jumped in. I said I'm sorry I'm late. I had a few other meetings, but I'm concerned when I heard Susie said that some of the service have been taken away for the last 2 years. I really would like to know what they were, but I want to ask Ryan, can you get all the information, because I didn't hear your presentation, and what the problems are with our BIA, because we want to make sure the BIA are, they're the fabric of Hamilton. We need them. So can you email me all the concerns that they had? Because I don't know. I just was shocked when I heard Susie say, we're taking away services. I want to know what services were taken away and how this is going to affect them.
Yeah, so through the chair, at the last meeting, I made the presentation about the Blue Box program.
Right.
So as of January 1st, producers will no longer be collecting the recycling from BIAs. Currently, they do it. Up until the end of the year, they're collecting it with the residential material. That service will discontinue as of January 1st. It's not legislated for them to do it, so they will no longer be doing it. So the decision becomes the city's responsibility. The city's responsibility for deciding whether or not to provide that collection.
Okay, so we need to find out how we could help them, and I would love to talk to you offline as well to what we can do to help them. I think there has to be a solution. We cannot I heard it would cost $3,600 to do that. We want to make sure that we're there for them, and if we have to put a motion, whatever, I need to know more about it. Okay, how we can help.
Sure, and through the chair, to you, Councillor Pauls, the genesis of this from the last meeting is that I did inform this group that a report was going to the Public Works Committee.
Okay.
And it would be going on, it's scheduled for July 7th. Okay. And at that time, we will provide options. Staff will provide options as to continuing the service, how we continue the service, not continuing the service, whatever it happens to be. Obviously, I can't speak to what the recommendations are at this point in time because it's not public, but that will be provided in there. As for the information that was provided previously, I'm guessing that would all be captured in the minutes from the last meeting. There were some concerns, but I think this meeting now is to really flesh out those in greater detail and figure out what those are. Because as you can appreciate, if some of these the members that are here today, that was their first time hearing about this, they probably wanted some time to reflect on it and to get their thoughts and to bring those to the table today.
That's great. So I'm glad it's coming to Public Works. I'm the chair of Public Works, so I'm going to read it very careful. We'll have a pre-meeting before that and talk about it. So that's great. Thank you for the information. I'm looking forward to hearing the report. Okay, thanks.
Okay, now we have second-time speaker Susan.
Thank you. I just want to sort of emphasize the passion that you're hearing from all of us here. And, you know, I understand that there's a real catch-22 with the city. The city has to figure out how to control their costs. At the same time, any increases in cost to our businesses have the risk of putting more of our small businesses out of business. And we know that the city of Hamilton also has a tax problem in that a more proportionate of the tax base should be coming from our commercial sector, and yet it's becoming increasingly more difficult for our commercial sector to be successful. And so I just, you know, this is not directed at you, and it's not saying anything that anybody doesn't know, but every day in light of the tariff situation and an uncertain economy and what is happening, when I go into our businesses, I am hearing more and more people that are saying it is not worth it for me to do this. My margin is decreasing, and there is a threshold for the price that I can charge for my product or service. The restaurant industry is one of them that is very difficultly hit with all the increases that they've had to labor costs. Their insurance is going up. And so their break-even point is so slim now that their margin, they should be staying open longer to serve more customers and create more revenue. But if they're not sure that revenue is going to come in, they can't afford the labor to keep it open. So they're in a catch-22 where they cannot make more money and their margin is decreasing every single day. And so I have restaurants that have been in town forever that are saying, I have no succession plan because nobody in their right mind will take this business over, and I'm not sure how much longer I can do it. And these are the businesses that are probably, you know, when you look at on our recycling day, the cans and the bottles and the cardboard boxes, it'll all go in landfill. And so we're at that catch-22 of also looking at the city's priorities, which, you know, environment is a big part of it. And increasing our tax base is a big part of it. So we got to figure out that balance to make sure that these businesses can continue to be the engine of the local economy, that they are quoted from every representative at the city over and over again. Small business are the engine that's driving our local economy. And yet if we make it so difficult that they can't actually stay in business, then we're going to have a bigger tax problem, a bigger revenue problem at the city, as well as not following through on the commitments to saying we prioritize, you know, climate change, and we prioritize the environment and safe, clean places to live. So that's not really I just hope you can share that passion that we all have here for protecting our small businesses and making sure that they can stay in business.
Yeah, through the chair is there are some limits to how I can provide the passion that I'm hearing today in a report, but I will certainly do my best in trying to get that message across, because, you know, I'm hearing it loud and clear, and hopefully I can do that justice in the report so that they hear that. So thank you for the comment.
Are there any other questions or comments for Ryan? I just have one quick one, Ryan. Would it help for us to submit some kind of letter on behalf of our boards for this, or should we wait until that becomes a vote at council?
I think if always the more we get from, sorry, I should say through the chair, but from the more support that we hear to continue services from this group, obviously it can help and not hurt, right? So I'm sure if there's a delegation there, or if there's a letter to be received, I think that would probably be the time for that. I did want to, just before we close out, I did want to one of the other motions was talk a little bit about communication to businesses. So I want to make sure I touched on that before we move on. So if there aren't any other questions about that piece, then would you like me to continue with that?
Can I just ask one question? What would the timeline be for us to get those into you?
That's a question for me, actually, Madam Chair. So you're talking about the letters in. So if the committee would like to, submit a letter from the committee. That has to be approved by this committee, and it would need to be done at the next meeting. So the letter would need to be drafted with a motion approving that the letter be submitted on behalf of the subcommittee. If individual members want to send letters from themselves as representatives of their individual BIAs, or as private citizens, that does not require approval of the committee. Similarly, if you wanted to delegate to the Public Works Committee as the BIA subcommittee, then that would also require a motion and approval of the committee here. We can do that at the next meeting. If you want to delegate as members, as representatives of your BIA or as private citizens, you can do that anytime. The deadline for submitting the delegation requests, sorry, Ryan, the July Public Works meeting is July 7th.
July 7th.
Which
correct.
is a Monday. So you would have to have your delegation requests in or letters submitted through to clerks, and the delegation requests would be on the required form, and by noon on the Friday, which is the 4th, I believe, July 4th.
Okay, so we have to decide if we want to do it from the subcommittee and have it passed at the June meeting, is that correct? Or if we wanted to do it for each of our individuals, we could submit that. Is that?
That's correct.
Okay.
And if you want a letter, then the letter should be prepared and on the agenda for the June BIA subcommittee meeting.
Okay, we can take that discussion offline. Is that okay? Is
Yes,
that okay?
if you're answering, if that's a question is to me.
Yeah. Okay, we'll discuss that further and get back to you on what we're going to do there. But I do think it's important that the committee hears our passion about this. Okay, was there something else, Ryan, you wanted to speak to the communications you said?
Yes, yeah, I just wanted to reach out. So obviously we have businesses within BIAs. We also have some non-eligible properties outside of BIAs, and we have, I think, a pretty good list of all those, and we will be sending a letter out so that everyone is notified of this potential change that may be happening on January 1st. That I'm hoping that we can send that out next week. So based on postage or Canada Post, it might not be received by people until the following week. I'd also say that we did hear from at the last meeting that some resources should be available for businesses for proper sorting. So I will have someone from my group working on that. My question, I guess, would be the best way to try to distribute that to the BIAs, but we'll certainly work on a sorting guide so that we can provide that, so that we can move forward with that. Sorry, someone was putting their hand up, I believe.
It was Christina, so she would be the best option for that, as she's the BI officer for all of us and can disperse that information out.
Oh, to distribute it to all that would be great. Yeah, so if we could provide sorting posters to you could distribute it to the BIs. Fantastic. So I will touch base with my outreach team and make sure that they get it to you, and maybe we could email offline Christina about best way of getting that to you. Okay.
I see Susan's hand up.
If you're sending a letter to our businesses, can you also, through Christina, send it to the BIAs so that we are aware of what communication has gone to our businesses, and that we could potentially share that in our newsletters too, just to let them know that whatever you're saying to them, that we can pass that along?
Yes, through the chair, I can certainly provide, while we're talking offline, Christina and myself, I can certainly provide her with a copy of that letter so that she can distribute it amongst the subcommittee members.
Okay. I see a question from Nadine.
Yeah, I'm curious about the timeline for that communication, and I'm wondering if it's possible to to consider delaying the communication so that we can avoid sending out a letter for a potential change that might happen, and potentially if we delay, that we have a little bit more clarity. What I'm foreseeing is this information being distributed to the businesses and them having a lot of questions and us not having any answers for them. So I'm trying to avoid sort of the wishy-washy communication about a potentially might possibly situation, and see if we can get to a place where we have, you know, if A then B, or just more clear and concise direction for the businesses.
Yeah, so through the chair, the letter is drafted. It currently does provide that if they have any other questions, we have an email address for them that's dedicated to education. We also have information on there on the website, which they can go to get any information on any changes, anything that happens, because obviously there are some things in the blue box changes right now. For example, it's also providing information if they have a missed collection. So right now, if you have a missed collection, you most likely would call the city. However, you should be calling, since April 1st, GFL, who's the contractor for the producers right now, should be contacted. So that information is in there as well. So there is some pertinent information for right now and the changes that we've seen. I understand your concern about this may happen. We're kind of hoping to get the message out so that July 7th is when Public Works happens. I don't think it's going to be, it then has to be approved by council, which would be the week after that, and then we have to mail the letters out after that. So it could be potentially almost August before businesses hear anything about who they should be contacting, where they get the information, and these types of things. So we're hoping to get that out so that they could at least have that information. So if the decision is made to discontinue the service, we would certainly have another letter go out that would provide that information to the businesses as well, and communicate it again through the BIA as well. So, but I understand the concern. Hopefully, with what I've said, with the other information that would be in that letter, that it would be useful for businesses to have that information currently.
Okay, great. Are there any other comments or questions for Ryan?
Yes, can I ask some questions? I can't raise my hand on the phone, please.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Tracy.
Okay, so thanks, Ryan. Just some questions about whether the city and your department, are they working with the province to, I don't know, lobby or try to change what the producers have to work with commercial areas or not, or even to find ways to collaborate on truck pickup and staff and that sort of stuff? I'm wondering if there's any movement on that with the province, or is it just being accepted as the done deal?
Yeah, thank you for that question through the chair. Thank you for that question, Tracy. Yeah, I should have mentioned that. Obviously, municipalities, I was at a conference just this week, and all municipalities are kind of struggling with this because we want to continue to provide this service, and a lot of municipalities are kind of being stuck in a corner here of what to do, when we do feel that a producer responsibility program should include businesses as well. We you know, all of municipalities have said this before to the province, that municipalities shouldn't bear the cost of recycling. That is supposed to be a producer responsibility program. That's what it's supposed to be. However, the province has limited the targets so that we think they're a little bit lower than they need to be. We feel that all sources should be included in this, including businesses, especially small businesses. You know, most municipalities have BIAs that are very important to those municipalities, and we want to make sure that those services continue. And so not just the city of Hamilton, but all municipalities with different industry organizations have put letters forward. We will continue to do that. We will continue to try and get the province to move on this, and hopefully they will. That being said, maybe I'm a little bit pessimistic, and maybe pessimistic for good reason, that I don't see that happening anytime soon, those changes in the regulation to include these sources, unfortunately. But we will certainly continue to do that, work with industry organizations so there's a unified voice, and that the province knows that this isn't just one municipality saying this, we're all saying this, and we all think that it needs to happen because as has been mentioned already in this meeting, the fear is that our landfills are going to fill up faster because the recycling services are not being provided, and also cities should not be paying for this when it's a producer organization or producer responsibility program. So.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Brian. Any other questions? Oh, Tracy,
yes, I
go
have
ahead.
a couple
Sorry.
more questions, please.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, thank you for the answer. I'm just, is there, are there more collaboration that you're aware of, like through the Association of Mayors or the AMO or anything like that going on, more formal?
Yeah, so through the chair, the AMO was one of the organizations that was leading advocacy for municipalities on the Blue Bucks. Recently, they have moved away from this advocacy, so it is falling more upon organizations that are more industry organizations. For example, the Regional Public Works Commissioners of Ontario, they have a waste subcommittee, as well as the Municipal Waste Association, which was I happen to be on the board of directors for, and we basically, it's falling on those two organizations to communicate this, as these other organizations have either not taken it on any further because Blue Box transition is really almost complete for residential sources. So that's really where the responsibility is falling onto right now.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask another question, please?
Go ahead.
Okay, and glad we have you on the board. Thank you. That's good to hear. Just wondering if also your office, it's encouraging to hear comments from Councillor Pauls and other comments from previously from Councillor Wilson. I'm just wondering if any education or collaboration with the environmental office, like Lindy Lukasik, are you guys looking in the report to add, the environmental impact of not doing a recycling program? I'm wondering if that's going to be part of it, and could it be, please?
Yeah, so through the chair, we haven't specifically spoken to Linda in the climate change office, but certainly in the report, the waste division is very aware of the environmental impacts of, potentially recycling going in the garbage, our landfill, landfill emissions, and all these types of impacts on the environment. So those will absolutely be included in the report as whether or not it's the alternative or it's the recommendation. So a pro or a con for what's being recommended.
Okay, great. I don't want to repeat what everybody else said, but we echo all the same sentiments that have been said. Thank you very much.
And I see Nadine's hands up.
Sorry, I through the chair, I just had a question around the city has a waste management advisory committee, yes. I'm curious about whether this information, if they've been consulted, or will they be consulted in determining what the recommendations should be. It feels a little bit like if we can't sort this out, pun intended, that the businesses, what we don't want to happen is for them to feel further disengaged and then be putting this stuff in the garbage. It feels like we could very quickly undo the good intentions of this change by not supporting the recycling from the businesses. So I'm just curious about the Waste Management Advisory Committee and their involvement.
Yeah, so through the chair, the Waste Management Advisory Committee, that's what it was previously called until the last municipal election, then it was changed to the Waste Management Subcommittee. The Waste Management Subcommittee most recently met early May. We meet about 4 times a year, and Blue Box transition is basically a standing topic that we have. We're certain that group is certainly aware of this potential change. They are aware that we have the report going, so we have made sure that they're aware of these potential changes, and they've provided whatever input they wanted to at those particular meetings. So this is they're very much aware. And in case you're wondering, that committee is made up of 3 councillors and 4 public members. 3 councillors. The chair is Councillor Francis. Councillor Tattison and Councillor Alex Wilson are the other 2 the other members, councillor members of that committee.
Thank you. Appreciate that information. They'll be receiving communication.
Okay, is that everything for Ryan from us? Well, thanks so much, Ryan, for coming to speak to us. We're very passionate about these things.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay, so there being no other business, I don't see any. The Business Improvement Area Subcommittee is adjourned at 1:51 p.m. And we'll see you all in the next meeting in a few weeks. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.